BCP'sCOUNTDOWN.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Countdown to Two-A-Days series. A daily look at an area football team and the key questions we're going to be answering about that team in our August 16th preseason preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom, and today, Dan, we're talking about the Forsan Buffaloes.
Yeah, this is a Forsan team that should have pretty good numbers this year. 16 lettermen back from last year's 8-2 squad. Among those, 5 offensive, 7 defensive starters. So another good group. This is a program that under Coach Jason Phillips has really made some very positive strides the last several years, becoming kind of a perennial force out here in West Texas, and I'm excited to see what they can do this year as well. They've got some holes to fill, some questions to answer, some of which we'll be talking about here in a little bit, but I think that this should be another interesting year in Forsan.
Before we jump into tonight's show, we want to remind you YouTubers to please hit the subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button, and then after that, hit that little bell so you get notifications every time we come up with a new podcast here at Big Country Preps. Now, we're going to be doing these countdowns all the way up to two-a-days at the outset of two-a-days. So this would be a great way for you to keep up with our countdowns by hitting that bell, hitting subscribe. Please do that.
And with that, let's just jump right in, talk about some of the big questions that Forsan will face that we will be answering when we put out that preview here later this month. The big one, I think, is line play. They've got a good group of skill position players back, headlined by Kevin Klagora, 1,000-yard rusher last year. But they are going to have some youth on the line. 3 new starters expected this year, and I think that's kind of the key. This is a team that really likes to run the football, really likes to pound you on both sides, play very physical. So I think that for them to have the type of success, the big question is, can they get the type of push and be the type of physical team they want to be up front as they have the last several years?
Well, I think another question to ask is, can they keep the momentum going? And they played really well for 2 straight years, and it kind of ties into question 1. If Forsan is going to keep the momentum going, they're going to have to get that ground game going. They're going to have to, hog the football and limit possessions and be physical. And that's the question. Can they do that? If they can do that, they can keep the momentum going. They've got something going that's really good out there in Forsan, but they're going to be youthful up front. So, I mean, the key element of their game is that possession offense. So if they can get a push up front, they can keep the momentum going. They have a burgeoning program out there. I've really liked what I've seen from Forsan over the last 2 years.
Yeah, very much a blue-collar program. I know Coach Phillips really likes the defense. They've got 7 starters back on that group. He kind of expects it to lead it. But, yeah, I think you're right that if they want to have the types of season that they've grown accustomed to the last few, it's going to kind of depend on that ability to be that ground and pound physical team. One big question, and it kind of ties into the end, is any team's going to have to find a solution at the quarterback position. I think that's going to be a big question for this Forsan offense once you get past the lines. Brooks Wright saw some time there last year. He's kind of a utility player, can play some receiver, very good defensive player at the safety position. And then they've got a junior coming up in Nicholas Holloway. One thing that's really interesting, I've always found interesting about Coach Phillips and Forsan is he has never shied away or been afraid to play multiple quarterbacks. So I would not be terribly surprised if we saw something similar this year. They've had a lot of years the last few where they've rolled in and rotated, and he's never had a problem with that. He uses guys and kind of, if they're complementary players, he's willing to roll with 2. So I'm interested to see if that's the direction they go, or kind of just what direction they go. I think that's a big question on that offense. With Klagora back, they should have a quality running game if they can get a push up front. They're going to have to find kind of a trigger man, and that I think will be something interesting to watch this season.
All right, with that, we're going to jump into Forsan's schedule for 2023. Non-district portion, of course, they always start off with Coahoma. That's become a traditional game over at Big Spring, one of the biggest rivalries in the Big Country. Forsan Coahoma, always a good one. Then they go to Post on September the 1st, at Stanton on September 8th, McCamey at home on September the 15th, and at home against Kermit on the 22nd. 2 home games, 2 road dates, and a neutral site. I like the schedule, the non-district portion for Forsan. It gives them a shot at winning some games and doing exactly what we were talking about. Try to get that momentum going and getting it going early.
Yeah, and one thing, when you look at that schedule, I mean, Coach Phillips never ducks away from a competitive schedule either. They're going to get challenged in that non-district portion as well, which should get them ready for district, which opens after an open date on September 29th, October 6th at Lincoln County. Then they go host Anthony on October 13th. Go to Cristoval on the 20th, go to Ozona on the 27th, and then finish up with what could be a very big game, very big home game against Sonora on the 3rd. So this should be that was a really, really competitive district last year, and I expect it will probably be again this year.
And with that, it's about time to wrap up tonight's edition of the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, the Forsan Buffaloes. But before we do that, we want to remind you, August 16th is the big day here at BigCountryPreps.com. That's the day we release our annual preseason football preview, which is ginormous. It's huge. We'll have more than 40 team previews. We'll have more than 40 player features. We'll have stats, we'll have videos, we'll have columns, we'll have predictions, and more accurate predictions than any other media source on this subject.
In the meantime, thank you for joining us for this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Days series. And make sure you come back tomorrow when we will be highlighting the Anson Tigers here at BigCountryPreps.com.